So it is our extreme honor to welcome Reverend Jen. Come on up.
Make stuff difficult. How did Dr. Strange do it? Okay, I'm getting over there. Guess I have to go this way. Oh, the comedy. Hi, everyone. First, I'd like to thank the Satanic Temple for having me, and I hope you enjoyed this reading. Yeah, so I was going to do a reading from some of my books and then show some of Satan Hold My Hand. That's actually a clip of my friend Angry Bob. Okay. So this book I wrote called Elf Girl kind of talks about how I graduated. I left Maryland to go to art school in New York and started an open mic when I graduated from art school, and I think this will give you some sense of what it's like. Also, thanks once again, Satanic Temple. Oh, and this also gives instructions on how to be an art star. I know that Scarlet Witch didn't really wear readers, but I figured if you're going to dress for Satanic Temple. Okay, so this is chapter 10 of my book, Elf Girl, the Anti-Slam. And it starts with a couple quotes, one from my friend Faceboy. Like a nursery school production of A Midsummer Night's Dream without a nursery school's budget, where performance art makes a cry for help. Collective Unconscious was this theater on the Lower East Side that had been on 2nd Avenue, and one day it burned down, so that's where this starts. Okay. Arriving at Collective Unconscious, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. One Sunday, I found a sign on the door stating that a blazing inferno had destroyed the interior of the theater. The sign announced that Faceboy Show had moved to Surf Reality, a theater located on Allen Street, a few blocks away from Collective. I wandered until I found Allen Street, a desolate thoroughfare on the Lower East Side. Surf Reality was distinguishable from the other rundown buildings on Allen Street by its welded metal door that looked like something out of Mad Max. Behind the metal door lay a steep staircase flanked by walls festooned with psychedelic mural paintings. At the top of the stairs lay the cozy theater. Beneath Surf stood a bodega that sold crack pipes and one dusty can of Coke that no one ever bought because people only went there to buy crack pipes. Next to the crack bodega was a storefront psychic, and next to the psychic, a bodega that sold many varieties of Budweiser. A married couple named Jenny and Robert Prichard ran Surf Reality and lived in a loft directly behind it. The two met on the set of The Toxic Avenger, where they both played villains. Robert had long hair and huge biceps covered in tattoos. He had one rule that he strictly enforced in the theater, and that was no smoking of tobacco products. You could smoke as much as you liked inside the hallway, but Rob went ballistic if he smelled tobacco inside the theater. At one open mic, a performer was receiving an onstage blowjob from another performer, much to the audience's delight. But when the performer was being filleted, lit up a cigarette, Rob ran into the theater and screamed, "Put out that cigarette!" Good times, the 90s. Faceboy's show attracted artists who didn't belong anywhere else, where outsiders could feel like insiders. The more I went to Faceboy's, the less I cared about the acceptance of the formal art world. Stepping outside of the gallery scene and looking in, I realized it was too well behaved for my own taste. If being in the art world is like being in the army, then art school is like boot camp. If you get out of art school and decide that you don't care to be part of the art world, it's like going AWOL. But I had to be true to myself, and I didn't share the art world's goal of legitimacy. At most art openings, the attendees looked as if they just stepped out of a Gap ad. People dressed conservatively and kept their voices down because, with the exception of Collins Land and a few others, a gallery owner that I talk about in there, would have been so excited about this. No one wanted to stand out. It was all about keeping quiet, sending out your slides, kissing ass, getting a gallery show, and then hopefully being granted legitimacy by the handful of critics who could ruin your life. But at Faceboy's show, I'm not so sure any of the artists even had goals. My favorite open mic regular was Michael Portnoy, a performer who later gained notoriety for jumping on stage during Bob Dylan's set at the Grammys with "Soy Bomb" written on his chest. Anyone remember that? It was so good. My mom called, "I think your friend's on the stage." Michael was tall, svelte, good looking, and quiet, the kind of guy you'd like to bring home to meet your parents. On stage, however, he was a lunatic. One night he arrived at the open mic in a cheerleading uniform with 2 orange cones attached to his chest carrying a bullhorn. He dragged the entire audience down to the sidewalk and leapt into the middle of Allen Street where he began directing traffic. A truck slowed down and he jumped onto the hood. "Get off my truck," the driver screamed. "No, you get off the truck," Michael screamed back. Another night, Michael was naked, ranting on stage when he spotted an audience member reading a book by Roland Barthes. He snatched the book out of the audience member's hand. "Roland Barthes," he screamed. "Can Roland Barthes do this?" he asked, yanking his penis about and dancing wildly. He pulled a tube of purple paint out of his bag and began to paint his penis purple. "Can Roland Barthes do this?" he asked, holding up his now purple penis. A friend of mine, so this is when a friend of mine, it shows up at the open mic and it's like, I went to this poetry slam around the corner and they judge people on a scale of 1 to 10. And I thought, that's so wrong. Everyone should be doing what we're doing. Okay, so I went there a few times. And then I just skipped ahead like 10 pages. A few days later, I held the first anti-slam. The anti-slam being the idea that you could have an open mic and anyone who performed got a 10, no matter what they did. And I had thrown a couple people out for like giving people a 9 or something. I'd spent 2 weeks giving out flyers to everyone in the free world. I even managed to slip a flyer to Allen Ginsberg at a Chinese restaurant, and he commended me on the concept. Later, I expanded this event to be the time I had dinner with Allen Ginsberg. On the Anti-Slams opening night, I stationed Monica, my college roommate, directly outside the New York Poetry Slam, handing out flyers to people who looked like they'd lost. Despite my efforts, only 4 people attended the first show, and they were freezing because the space had no insulation or heat. Determined that the show must go on, I worked even harder. And I'll skip ahead. And then I'll get to the really salacious shit, okay? Because I know that's what I don't want to... Okay, yeah, I added rules to my show, and then it gets to how to be an art star. So my friend Dinah had this dream that... all the people from the open mic were like wearing robes that had an art star on them and they were all dancing. And I thought, we're all art stars, so I started to call everyone art stars. Anyway, despite that pretty much anyone, except for maybe Dick Cheney, can be an art star, I'm often asked, how do you become an art star? So even though this is not a how-to book, I am including a simple 13-step plan to attaining art star. Hope you're all taking notes. Number 1, eliminate hobbies. Everything an art star does should be done with obsessive compulsive zeal. To take an example from my life, it wasn't enough for me to simply collect troll dolls. Instead, I turned my home into the Troll Museum, which I did have running for 16 years. If you're thinking of collecting Legos, why not build a giant Lego hut and attempt to live in it? Number 2, carry through on even the craziest ideas. You might be sitting in a bar with a friend discussing Teletubbies, and you might say, wouldn't it be fun to dress as a drunk Teletubby and visit various toy stores throughout the city? True art stars wouldn't just talk. They'd go out and make a Teletubby costume. Then they'd actually go and visit toy stores. Did that. Avoid self-improvement. Unless you plan on learning Elvish or Klingon, avoid self-improvement. Self-improvement is for people with time on their hands, and art stars have no time on their hands. Number 4, practice dating as performance art. Nothing will sap an art star's energy faster than a serious relationship. So date only as a form of performance art. Date people who fascinate you, not people who appear to be boyfriend or girlfriend material. You can save a lot of money by dating a crazy person because you don't even have to hang out. Just listen to your date's delusions will be entertainment. Okay, enough of that. Anyway, you get the idea. Start an open mic. Now, I would like to go on to this. I don't have my Fitbit on me, so I don't know what time it is. I'm used to having a watch. Scarlet Witch. This is called Live Nude Elf. When I sort of, I like to say that I was supporting my painting habit through writing, and I got a lot of articles writing, or a lot of paydays writing salacious things for particularly nerve.com. Does anyone remember it? Mm-hmm. Okay. So they, I pitched some articles to them, and they said, maybe you would like to do this. It's where you go and every month you do a new experiment that's sexual. It's like, okay, sign me up. Mm-hmm. And this is chapter 13. It's called Squirting. Okay. Yeah, so I did it for science was the name of the column. So I had to come up with a hypothesis every month and then go and do it and see how it went. So this is 13 in, and every month it was really difficult finding a new thing to write about, but squirting was new to me, so. Okay. Ada warned me not to look at reader comments. Nerve readers can be kind of mean, she said. And up until the Dude for a Day column, which is where I was like a man for 2 days, I took her advice. Then one night I took a peek. Most of the comments were complimentary, but a few were so nasty that my fragile ego fell apart. One reader called me depraved for having used the men's bathroom dressed as Steve Reno. That's the dude I was. A man with a van. While another called my writing run-of-the-mill porn. Clearly, a lot of people hated me. I went through each article's comments, feeling worse about myself with each passing second. I called to Erin, crying. Erin was my girlfriend at the time. Fuck them, she said succinctly. They're just jealous. Did you ever hear the saying, people don't want what you have, they just don't want you to have it? Don't let those sex-hating assholes get to you. You just need to do something more pornographic. I've been thinking, we should try to make you squirt. Erin always managed to turn the conversation back to either sex or drinking. Squirting is all the rage in porn these days, she added. Squirting by the way of a G-spot orgasm had never been at the top of my list of priorities. Maybe it was the name that turned me off, Grafenberg spot. It's just not that sexy. It sounds like something I slept through in 8th grade lab science. Even though I'd heard that G-spot orgasms were tremendous, I was happy with my clitoral orgasms. After all, if something ain't broken, don't fix it. I also wondered if the idea that squirting G-spot orgasms are earth-shattering was part of the man's plan to make women feel inadequate. One of the great things about being a woman is never clicking on spam emails for products that promise to help you shoot loads across the room. However, I was not willing to rule it out of my sexual repertoire, a possible bonus. If I were able to find some chemically sensitive paper, I could incorporate squirting into my visual art and revive the action painting movement. Though Erin was not a squirter, she'd just stolen a copy of She Comes First from the publishing company where she worked. In addition, she sent me a resume. I didn't actually ask her further, detailing her qualifications as a squirting partner, which consisted of having a tongue and at least 10 fingers. Skills and work experience included using toys, not crying during sex, and always paying the rent. Several references were listed, including Janet Reno and the entire roster of the St. Thomas College field hockey team. In summation, she wrote, I will not give up till we'll make you a fountain. I will even take it right in the eye. That is how important this is to me. Erin and I scheduled our lab for the following week. Because I have a compact vagina, not bragging, true, and long fingers, I knew where my G-spot was and had petted it many times. But figuring out how to make this petting propel a volcanic reaction would take at least a week's worth of research. You've got to do Kegels, my friend Michelle advised. Oh man, I hate working out, even if it's only my vagina I moaned. I know I should do Kegels every day. I also know I should eat spinach, exercise, and remove my eyeliner before bed, but that doesn't mean I do. Reluctantly, though, I began doing Kegels at work, at the bar, on the subway, while watching TV. This is such fiction because I was never at work or on the subway, but it was a little like not exercising for 10 years and then cramming for a triathlon with only a week to go. Many of my male friends were eager to discover what techniques could lead to female ejaculation. My friend George Googled squirting and discovered that porn actor and producer Seymour Butts had made a DVD entitled Seymour Butts' Female Ejaculation, A Complete Guide. The absurd yet academic title appealed to me. However, I imagined that entering a porn store and requesting such a ridiculous title would be mortifying. To lessen the embarrassment, I brought along my friends Amy and Georgia. Our first stop was sex superstore Babeland, which used to be on Rivington. I don't know if it's still there. We didn't find the DVD, but did acquire a Nubby G vibrator, which is said to stimulate not only the G-spot, but the clit and anus as well. According to Babeland employees, this oafish vibrator helps someone they know ejaculate for the first time. Along with my Nubby G, I picked up a copy of the DVD, How to Female Ejaculate. According to the cover, it was a classic 10,000 copies sold. From there, we headed up to Times Square, where I sheepishly wandered into several stores looking for the Seymour Butts video. A porn shop employee named Greg told us they were sold out. It's definitely one of the best, he added, promising to order it for me. Later that night, Bruce and I viewed How to Female Ejaculate. The DVD opens with host Deborah Sundahl discussing female anatomy. Judging from Deborah's shoulder-padded purple blazer and navel prints behind her, I gathered that the film was shot in the mid-'80s. As for the G-spot, Deborah proclaimed, if it were any closer, it might bite you. She then went on to display her own G-spot by turning a speculum on its side. It looks like a little snail, I marveled. Soon a trio of Deborah's squirter friends joined her. Look, 2 of them are wearing hats, Bruce observed. Maybe that has something to do with it. The squirters proceeded to discuss their first ejaculation experiences and the consistency of their ejaculate, what it felt, smelled, and even tasted like. Let's get to the squirting, I cried. It's made by women, so of course they have to talk about it a lot before they do it, Bruce noted. We were forced to eat our condescending words when the women suddenly began to squirt. Bruce literally jumped out of his seat as a lanky brunette in crotchless Calvin Klein panties, suspenders, and requisite hat shot enough clear fluid to drown a small mammal. That's amazing. How cool would it be to jizz on a man's face, I pronounced, inspired. The following day, I picked up my Seymour Butts video, popped in the DVD player, and awaited instructions, Nubby G in hand. Astroglide at my side. Unlike most male adult stars, Seymour Butts has high cheekbones and a cute smile. He is a male porn star who might actually turn women on. The film began with Seymour standing in the rain, getting drenched, then shaking out his lovely ringlets and promising to teach viewers everything they wanted to know about female ejaculation. His sermon was interrupted by a phone call from his mother, which he went inside to answer. From then on, the Butts residence was awash in activity. It was like he was a latter-day Mr. Rogers. His telephone and doorbell were constantly ringing, only in this land of make-believe, it wasn't Mr. McFeely at the door, but Tina, a blonde with basketball boobs, who wound up engaging in a pantsless... Okay. Shockingly, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And the unbelievable... Try and skip around so you guys aren't here forever, because this is quite a long chapter. Okay, amid the unbelievable scenarios, viewers were treated to tips on squirting. Tina demonstrated advanced and beginner kegels, and Seymour boxed a plastic Taibo buddy while explaining that wrist and forearm strength are crucial to eliciting female ejaculation from your partner. Female Ejaculation, A Complete Guide is one of the loudest pornographic videos I've ever viewed. Inordinate amounts of wailing and moaning accompanied each squirting episode. After viewing the first 2 hours of footage, I wandered into my kitchen and realized my next-door neighbors were having a fancy rooftop cocktail party while all my windows were wide open. I'm lucky no one called the cops. Horrified, I ventured back into my bedroom, turned the volume down, and decided to do a little exploring. Splaying my legs, I fiddled with my G-spot, making a come-hither motion with my fingers and things like that. I draped the condom over the nubby G and coated it with lube. Evidently, my eyes had been bigger than my vagina. When I purchased the nubby, its fat, curved head barely fit. When I finally managed to insert it, the pressure was too much for my clit. Within a minute or two, I achieved a satisfying clitoral orgasm that made me wonder why exactly I was bothering with the G-spot. If we were going to have a full-on G-spot orgasm, I would have to keep my fingers away from my clit, a feat that would possibly require restraints. Placing the nubby G far out of reach, I tried again, this time using my fingers and the rapid motions I witnessed Seymour use. I clenched my PC muscles, sweated and strained, but produced no fountain. Frustrated, I called Faceboy. Knowing he had experience with squirters, I thought he could give me advice. Face, I've been rubbing my G-spot for an hour, I said. I feel like I'm ready to squirt, but can't. Well, what kind of sensations are you having, he asked. I feel the G-spot swell up and get hard, and it feels like I have to pee. Well, you know how when you pee, you just let go? That's what you have to do, just let go. What if I pee? You won't, but if you're really worried, try not drinking beer beforehand. What? Sexual activity without beer, that's probably not going to happen. Also, I have to pee all the time anyway. I go through 90% of my life having to pee and the other 10% looking for places to pee. I live in constant fear of pissing myself due to my pea-sized bladder, but Facebook was right. I would have to get over my phobia of pissing the bed before I could produce the glorious geysers I'd witnessed on screen. Erin, I'm worried I might pee on you, I told my lab partner when she arrived at my apartment carrying her copy of She Comes First. I really wouldn't care, she assured me, and I've been doing serious research. You're not going to be on me. We're going to make this happen. It could take a long time, if it takes all night. Like a junior scientist who had just discovered the explosive qualities of baking soda and vinegar, Erin excitedly shared her findings. Opening the pages of She Comes First, she pointed to a line drawing of the urethral sponge and began explaining what happens when it fills with ejaculate. What are those squiggly lines? I asked, confused by the abstract expressionist nature of the image. I think those are supposed to be pubes. Why did they have to draw on the pubes? Because that's a mons pubis? Yeah, but it seems a little detail-oriented. Okay, maybe the guy just takes pubes. Erin put the book down and we went into my boudoir where I put on How to Female Ejaculate and fast-forwarded to the ejaculations. You know, they really don't tell you exactly how to do it in this video. Erin said, I know, it's like they're showing off. Realizing Erin was bored, I put on the more modern Seymour Butts DVD. I'm really intimidated, I said, watching the fountains of clear liquid pouring forth from the actresses on screen. Don't be intimidated. They're important because they can do that. They're experts. That's why they get paid the big bucks. I don't think I can do it. You can do it. Turn that off and get naked. I stripped and laid some towels down on the bed, thrilled that, like my male counterparts, I know how to jizz rag. Do you want to get naked too? I asked Erin, who still wore jeans and a t-shirt. No, this is all about you. I'm just here to facilitate. It does feel a little technical, though. Yeah, it's like we're about to do surgery. Some mood lighting and incense remedied the situation. I repositioned myself on the bed and Erin poured a heavy cut of lube over my pudenda. Slowly, she spread the lube around. No, I have to gesticulate at this time. Do you feel my G-spot? I asked excitedly. It feels like a rough sponge, almost like a loofah. Hold on, we're not there yet, she said, teasing me with her fingers and tugged until lube became superfluous. She slid 2 fingers inside me, making the sign of Satan. I know it is Satan, Miss Ryan. As she began to apply pressure to my G-spot, she worked her fingers in and out, softly at first and then hard and fast. Noises escaped my mouth, not unlike those of a seal. It must have looked and sounded like Aaron was beating the shit out of me because JJ, my chihuahua, may she rest in peace, darted into the bedroom and started going nuts. I can't squirt with this commotion, I sighed, rising from the bed and relegating JJ to the kitchen where she shivered dramatically. Okay, back to work, I stated, reclining back on the bed, my G-spot still swollen and aching for relief. Erin reinserted her fingers, rolling them over the ridges of my sweet spot and settling into a repetitive motion whereby she pressed down on the G. Minutes passed, and with each minute, my apparent urge to pee grew stronger. My PC muscles contracted around her fingers, but she wouldn't stop. Oh my God, it's killing me, I screamed. Please stop, really, no. I begged her to stop several times and then begged her to keep going several times, all while grunting, moaning, and sweating. I tried to let go as I'd been instructed to, but nothing happened. I pressed down like I was draining my kitty and nothing happened. Erin's face was inches from my crotch. She wore a look of pained determination. If you remember the scene in Alien where John Hurt's stomach bursts open and he gives birth to alien spawn, you'll have some idea of what my face looked like. Usually when I built up to orgasm, I'm entertaining dirty thoughts, but I was entertaining no thoughts whatsoever. I was just focusing on the intense, unusual sensation in my crotch. I tried to sit up to lessen the pressure. No, lie back down, Erin commanded. I lay back down and lifted my legs up in what must have been a really unflattering move. And then, much to my surprise, I squirted. The urge to pee was gone. I hadn't peed. I'd come instead. Yay! I stared down at my vagina, amazed. Oh my God, you did it, Erin screamed. We hugged and rolled around on the bed together like we just won the lottery. And then, so then I asked her about it, and she says, how did it go? And she said, it was cute. How far did it go? And she said, it sprayed out about 4 inches. It was like a little fountain. Did it get in your hair? No, it didn't get that far. Disappointed by my lack of distance and aim, we tried a few times to elicit another ejaculation to no avail. I even convinced Erin to get naked and allow me to dip my hands in her honey pot. Unable to muster further ejaculations, we gave up and went to a neighbor where we discussed our G-spots. And then the next day, I was really proud, so I had to call all the dudes I knew and my friend Tom said, was it fun? I said, it was fun, but it was a lot of pressure. I didn't want to disappoint. And he said, nah, you know how we feel. Okay. So does anyone know what time it is? Because I know I was going to screen.
7:47.
Oh, okay. We got plenty of time. So now I'll read a really dirty one from this book. Oh, yeah. I think this is probably the dirtiest chapter in here. Is everyone doing okay? This one. Okay, perfect. So this is chapter 15. I think chapters 12 through like 16 are the best chapters in this, in case. Okay, this one's called Princess Reform School. I just got back from doing a tour in London, which is where I got the idea to write this book. Okay, well, okay. Though I missed swinging London, there was no time to wax nostalgic. I'd been cast in an independent feature film that was set to shoot a few days after my return. I auditioned on a lark, not realizing they might cast someone whose acting experience consists solely of appearances on wacky cable access shows. Okay, this is about that. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, and my column was due. As usual, I had no idea what to write about. Consulting my Rolodex of freaks, I came across a character I'd almost forgotten, the headmaster. I'd first met the headmaster at one of Abby Eamon's sexy soirees the previous winter. Abby had interviewed me years ago for a magazine, Extreme Fetish, and we'd since become friends. The New York Press voted her soirees best orgies, but after attending one, I found they were more like a cross between an orgy and a backyard barbecue. If partygoers want to get naked and lick testicles, they could. If they simply wanted to eat pretzels, watch porn, and make chit-chat, they could do that too. The soirees were also BYOB, hence they were popular among impoverished artists who refused to let a lack of funds prevent them from engaging in sex with multiple partners. I made the mistake of smoking pot at my first sexy soiree. It's a drug that really has no place at an orgy. I spent the next several hours feeling paranoid when I should have been feeling uninhibited. Hence, I learned my first rule of orgy enjoyment: stick to wine like the Romans did. As I gnawed on pretzel knots and stared at a couple doing it next to me, the headmaster introduced himself. He had old-fashioned movie star good looks, and he professed to run a Princess Reform School, an S&M academy devoted to demonstrating the joy of submission to prima donnas. He knew who I was from the performance scene and seemed to think I was just such a creature. He gave me his card. He then led me into a private room, stripped me bare, and worked a vibrator against my kitty until I came. The following week, I used his card. He asked me to meet him at a Barnes & Noble on the Upper West Side wearing my coat and nothing else. It being winter, he also afforded me the luxury of thigh-high tights and boots. Narrowly avoiding vaginal frostbite, I made it to Barnes & Noble, where he proposed we head to a nearby watering hole. "Can I take your coat?" he asked. Absent-mindedly, I almost handed it to him. As we chatted, I realized that, odd as the headmaster's sexual proclivities were, he was way too normal for me. He worked for a newspaper and lived uptown, far from the chaos of the Art Star scene. Our chatter soon ended as the headmaster pulled his bar stool close enough to mine that he was able to thrust a bullet vibrator under my coat and between my legs without anyone else noticing. As perfectly normal business people sipped their Pinot Grigio and Shiraz all around me, I came to the brink of a screaming orgasm. All this before my column even premiered. It appeared it was time to use the headmaster's card again. "I'd like to enroll in the Princess Reform School," I told him. "Well, young lady, you're going to have to fill out online enrollment." The application process for Princess Reform School was so complex it would put Harvards to shame. Fortunately, unlike Harvard, one can obtain admittance simply by completing an online questionnaire, which is designed to determine whether you are a tragic beauty in need of humility. Because the headmaster had already deemed me enough of a princess to qualify for admission, I sent him an email requesting a scholarship since I'd be writing about the process. The headmaster agreed to give me a full scholarship but insisted I would have to work hard for it. Unlike other reform schools, which are devoted to making bad students good, Princess Reform School is dedicated to making good students bad. The headmaster started the school several years ago to minister to the needs of a frustrated ex-model, but now he accepts anyone who is too gorgeous for their own good. A further perusal of the PRS website revealed that the school dress code forbade panties, hemlines lower than mid-thigh, and heels shorter than 3 inches. The curriculum page listed dirty talk, bisexual exploration, bondage, and sensual submission. It was also noted that the headmaster devised an individualized curriculum for each student according to her needs, level of experience, and aspirations. For my first lesson, the headmaster suggested he do an outcall. I was to be homeschooled. He asked me to list and rank my problem areas. Was I too modest, too bratty, or too haughty? Perhaps I was insufficiently skilled in erotic service. Although I got naked for about half my columns, I was still a shrinking violet when it came to public nudity. So I ranked modesty high, shyness while engaging in dirty talk, sexual laziness, and in a general insolence toward authority also made the list. The reformatory princess uniform varied depending on the assignment. The headmaster insisted I wear a classic schoolgirl outfit. Luckily, I already owned everything but a white shirt, which I easily obtained at a back-to-school sale around the corner. Okay, So I'll skip ahead so we can get to some of the movie. So I graduate. Oh, my graduation happened at an orgy. I do want to get to the movie, but there's some good stuff in it. A lot of talk in it. My professor then informed me of an upcoming sexy soiree. I would be permitted to graduate if I attended and underwent various rites of public chastisement and nudity. The thought filled me with dread. I immediately visualized the story of Owen, the scene in which I was forced to attend a party wearing an owl mask and nothing else. This panicked me. Not only that, there would certainly be people I knew at the soiree. I managed to embarrass myself enough at parties while clothed. Who knew what kind of gossip I would inspire when naked? Moreover, I'm so vain that I put on lip gloss to go to Kinko's. The idea of others witnessing my pasty ass jiggle in public freaked me out. But if I were to overcome my princess pride, I would have to face and conquer my fears. I agreed to attend the party on the condition that I would be treated to favorable commencement ceremony involving earth-shattering orgasms. Okay, next day was one of the, headmaster, okay, yeah, we're not even, anyway. Okay, I'll skip to one. I'm trying to get the best out of this chapter. Okay, so we had one lesson, and he says, "You have a long way to go, young lady." Removing my shirt and refastening the cuffs over my head. Oh no. Okay, here we are at the orgy. So, at the orgy, for moral support, I invited my friend Amy, who would shop for instructional squirting videos with me a few months earlier, and another friend, Natalie. They agreed not to look if I did anything too embarrassing. We got to the party shortly after midnight. Inside, I found the headmaster lounging in a faux fur pillow-laden room full of hot people and a smattering of awkward dudes. After I nervously downed 2 cans of Bud, the headmaster suggested we get started. He motioned me over to a large wooden X that was bolted to the wall, the type that might have been used in a religious inquisition of yesteryear. The same blindfold he'd used in my previous lesson was affixed over my eyes, preventing me from making any visual observations throughout the next portion of the lab. Amy and Natalie giggled in the background. The headmaster gently took my wrists and lifted them over my head, spreading them out in a jumping jack position. Then he shackled them to the X. I guess there's nothing I can do about it now, I thought. I briefly wished I had another Budweiser and considered asking Amy or Natalie to feed me one since I couldn't use my hands. But I decided that requesting anything would be far too haughty. I was literally in no position to make demands. Once I got over my desire for beer, being shackled was actually sort of relaxing. The best thing about being tied up is that you don't have to do any work. The headmaster proceeded to spank, flog, and paddle me. I yelped as if I'd just jumped into an ice-cold swimming pool, dancing a veritable jig away from the implements of anguish. In the background, people conversed casually as if I weren't being tortured only a few feet away. The headmaster unfastened my wrist cuffs. "Am I done?" I asked. "You have a long way to go, young lady," he growled, removing my shirt and refastening the cuffs over my head. He grabbed my ankles, separated them, and shackled them to the base of the X. Then he walked away. "Where are you going?" I asked fearfully as footsteps faded into the distance. "How long am I going to be here?" I grew seriously concerned that I'd have to stay up there all night while everyone else had fun. Partygoers came and went, occasionally commenting on my bound half-naked presence. Across the room, the headmaster discussed varieties of vibrators with my friends. Every so often, someone spanked, paddled, or touched me. After what seemed like several hours, the headmaster returned, unfastened my skirt, and let it drop. To my horror, I was naked. Again, except for my tiny knee socks, in a room full of people. Luckily, I couldn't see them. The sound of the headmaster firing up a high-powered vibrator delighted my ears. He ran the device up and down inside of my thighs. My flesh quivered, and I managed to utter, "Thank you, sir." My gratitude was rewarded as the vibrator was thrust between my legs. A hoop with long feathers attached to the sides was then draped around my body, encasing me in plumage. The feathers, combined with the restraints and vibrator, drove me out of my head. The vibrator seemed to be set on a speed equivalent to that of Black & Decker power sander, and unless the headmaster had transformed into Dr. Octopus while I was blindfolded, others must have helped him wield the array of sensory devices that graced my skin, converging to give me 3 extremely unprincess-like orgasms. I can only imagine how asinine I must have looked, convulsing in orgasm, covered in feathers, tied up with a vibrator, pressed to my clit, wearing nothing but a tie and socks. It sort of makes wearing a lampshade on your head at the office holiday party seem acceptable. I hung from my shackles like a prisoner at a Renaissance fair, reluctant to move or function. I simply wanted to sway from my shackles, soaking up the total relaxation that followed such monumental decadence. Unfortunately, other partygoers were upset that I was hogging the axe. And then I graduated. Congratulations, Princess Jen, you've graduated. I think you might qualify for a teaching assistantship. And, okay, so should we show some clips? Or, I don't know. So that's kind of the end of it. These are two, like, so Elf Girl actually came out after Live Nude Elf, and I wrote some other books like BDSM 101, which is work for hire, Trolls Best Friends for Life, that's a kid book, work for hire, and then June, which is a novel about being a submissive that I don't have a copy of. I actually had to get these on eBay. I don't have copies of any of my books. Do you want to try to show some action comedy? Like, okay, so, if any of y'all have ever seen Toxic Avenger, Robert Prichard, he is always willing to play like a delinquent teenager in any of them. He was in Toxic Avenger, but he still plays a teenager in my movie. So the basic plot of the movie is that they're a really shitty band and they want to sell their soul to Satan no matter the cost so that they can get a record deal. Can we skip ahead to like 11? So I know it's not. We also like we used to film everything on the street, kind of where that's our friend Tony. Oh, I think that's good. Oh, this is a nice scene. This has a little bit to do with Satan. If we can skip ahead, Satan comes up in like 23 minutes. Summon the dead and they. Oh, here we go.
My assistant. TTYLPRP. speak.
Finally. And that is a very, very rude way to answer the phone.
I'm not confused, Harold.
Well, first you can start by answering the phone. That's A. B. Answer my email. I've tried several avenues to try and access you. What do you have in a pad? Is that how you pronounce it? In a pad? Oh, now I have acid reflux. Where the hell have you been all night?
Out in the underworld. Hello.
Listen here, a group of very, 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 very attractive young people, delinquents no less, right up your alley. I've been trying to get in touch with you for over an hour. Okay? And I find that it's unwise. It's not what you feel to be good at. I think that you should stay with the paranormal and try and get in touch with these kids. It was show. It's worked well for you in the past. I mean, you know, why switch horses midstream or whatever the heck that phrase is. Some people say sometimes.
I am so. Where are they? Long Island, Jersey.
Oh, please, my roast. I'm on the phone, Stanley. The city of New York. That's great. I love New York. Listen to me. And please don't get distracted. Because I need you to focus. Just please stay away from the social media. Your web presence is fine. I don't want you to ignore what got you here in the first place. Don't go the way of those underpaid deities. We can't even remember half of them. Hello?
Going to New York City.
Unbelievable. Hello? Alright, I'm hanging up. Hello? Hanging up now.
So Elvis and I tried to go shot to shot. Whitney, let me tell you something. It was a long night.
This is Grandfather George who came through the Ouija board.
You're even there, 15? Wow, Gramps. I can't believe you got to hang out with Elvis and Keith Moon.
Underworld sounds rad.
You had his place.
This is the demon that comes through the Ouija board.
I hold my breath until sunrise, just to gaze into those blue eyes. I rewatch all my cloudy towns. It makes me weak in the knees. You roughly shirt and tight red hands. You love my minds on just one glance. When you smash your golden car, you smash it on my beating heart. Now I run with thee, my grin and curly hair are marked both in your voice is the speak
enjoyed some clips from Satan Hold My Hand. And so, because it's 8:20. I think there is a nice scene actually of Satan in Times Square. Can we get it?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's something good to leave on. Like, I don't know. Oh, no, I think it's before that. Yeah. Same running around Times Square. There's nothing more difficult than getting a cab in New York with someone dressed as Satan, but in like a Uber style Halloween costume. I just needed that. All right.